people. Now, I did say the first 20 people to join would get an insight on some newness. However, there is a lot of people. So you can all see some bit of newness. And I guess the more the merrier. So I'll do this really, 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 really quickly, just so you can all see and we can crack on with Alison's expertise on masculine. I always trip over my words when I say the word Nailfie. I don't know.
I know, it's not a normal word, to be fair.
It's not. But it makes sense, it doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So, some of you might have seen in the community a blurred out photo earlier. I haven't seen it just yet. However, next month, April, which is literally going to be next week, which I can't believe, we are going to be releasing the wedding edit. Can everyone see that? Or let me take my blurry off. I know, let me take my blurry off because that doesn't. There we go.
Oh.
So what we've done with this one is we've created an edit. Basically, it's got all your essentials in there. We had quite a few people asking like DMs in the community about, you know, what's the go-to shades for a bride, what's the go-to shades for bridesmaids. You know, you've got like maid of honors, you've got the bride, etc., etc. And so we had lots of people asking about, you know, different color shades. So what we've done is we've actually put together the perfect collection of 4 detail paints and 6 gel polishes, where you can just buy the edit. Obviously, it works out a lot cheaper than buying them individually as well, which is a bonus all in all. And yeah, so we put together this edit. Shades inside will be revealed on the day. I'm not going to talk too much about it. I don't want to give too much away. But yeah, we put together this edit. We thought it'd be really nice for the time of year, going into April, because April sort of May right through to September is like the perfect wedding season. So they're not new shades, Gemma. I've just seen in the chat there. They're not new shades, but there are existing shades, but it just gives you the opportunity to buy as a collection. And you get the full detail prints as well inside with the 6 gel polishes. Hi, everyone. So any questions about that? You know where we are. Oh, my parents are getting married in September. This works out perfect. Can't wait to do all the bridesmaids know using this. Oh, how lush. Oh, perfect. Yeah, that's the thing. And I always feel like sort of it's always a bit of a struggle. We've also included different shades in there as well, so you can accommodate to all your clients too, making it just perfect universally for everyone. Oh, you've missed the first bit. Okay, let me give you a little sneaky peek. There we go. Here we are. Right, I'm still letting some people in. But as we are currently on 5, oh, lovely, isn't it? Qualified in June, this is great. Oh, how lovely. I feel like this is going to be really beneficial for you, which is lovely. Oh, wow. So, almost more than anything is I just want to say hello to everyone. I do appreciate that it's a Monday evening. I know that some people have sort of like admin days on Monday, some people have a real chill out day on a Monday, almost treat it like a Sunday. Because I know you guys are obviously really busy over the weekends. So this is Alison. If everyone can have a little bit, give Alison a wave. Alison. When it came to doing the business mastery. So being a home nail technician herself, but also a professional photographer, she completed her university arts, and she's got a passion for nails, she's got a passion for photography, so she's going to be the perfect person to give you all the best tips and tricks and give you everything you need to get that dreamy content. What we focus on as well more than anything is doing it in your own space and letting it be cost efficient for you as well, meaning that you're going to get the full benefits of using your surroundings and not having to cost a fortune. And yeah, we're really, really excited and really thrilled to do this session with Alison. And yeah, I hope you all really, really enjoy it. So I'm going to pass you over to Alison, and enjoy everyone. I'm going to sit back.
Okay, cool. So, hi, as Larry said, I'm Alison. I'm a nail tech by profession at the moment, but I also have a degree in photography, and that was my initial route into, I guess, the arts. As it seems, I mean, I use it most days now with doing nail photography every day, but I don't. I got into a lot of commercial photography. Oh, there we go. Yeah, I started out doing art at college. I was always interested in stuff arty, and then I fell down the photography route because my mum said to me, "Oh, you need something else. You need to do something else at college." And I was like, "Oh, I don't know. And she was like, "Do photography. I love that." And with that, I discovered that I had a passion for all things creative, and I just wanted to take pictures all the time. I liked the quickness of it, but I also liked working in the darkroom. I did all sorts, and I absolutely loved it. And I ended up working at a commercial photography company in Leeds for a while. I worked with brands like Quorn, and we went to Centre Parks and did a shoot with them, which was mad. So I've done shoots all over the place, and I really enjoyed the kind of idea of creating stuff in a studio setting so that you kind of start from nothing and build something that's totally unique. I did a lot of really quirky photography stuff and just a lot of experimenting, I guess. And then as when I was working in Leeds, I discovered that it was a little bit too far for me to drive from home. I'm from a little tiny village on the coast of England, and it was getting a little bit too much. And I kind of fell into nails by accident, and it kind of satisfied that creative itch, I suppose. And then as I started my journey into deciding what brands I was going to choose, and I did my training and qualified, I then went into finding a brand that I trusted, and I found Hona, and it's been the best community I could be a part of. And I mean, you all know this because I don't have to sing the praises to all you guys, but yeah, so that's kind of how I got into it. And I use photography every day doing nails, so I guess it's quite enjoyable in that sense because I do get to pick it up, but it's a different way because I know how to photograph with big, bulky cameras, which is not the kind of thing you're going to take pictures with nails. You're going to be using your phone every day, basically. So it kind of, what I want to talk about today is I want to show you how to get the best out of what you already have. Like, everybody's shooting with their phones. So I want to be like, this is how you could maybe improve your phone photography, basically, because that's realistically, we've all got a camera in the palm of our hands nowadays, and that is the way of the world. So first things, I'm just going to run through a few different key terms because you might hear me throwing them about. And different things within the camera as well, and they're kind of handy to know in case I say them and you're like, what on earth is she talking about? So exposure, so that one you'll definitely hear because especially with iPhones, that's how they mainly control the photography. So it's basically how light or dark an image is. That's basically what you're looking at. So it's how much light has the sensor been exposed to. So in a normal camera, in the back of your lens, that when your lens opens up, it releases your screen to light, basically, and that is how long you have exposed that basically screen to light. So in the olden days, I'm not saying that it's not that long ago, but with film photography, it was how long that strip of film had been exposed to light. And it's the same principle anywhere. It's just a digital screen nowadays, or a digital sensor, or a microchip. Like, that's what is how much light has been exposed to. Then we've got ISO, so that's how sensitive the camera is to light. So as in an ISO of 100, it means the camera isn't very sensitive to light. So if you've got a really bright scene in front of you, you want a lower ISO because that's going to make your photos look less sort of really bright and overexposed and over highlighted. Whereas a higher ISO is going to take for like your nighttime photography. But the trade-off with that is you get more grain with more ISO. So ideally, when you're shooting in the studio or in a high light setting, which generally most of your nails photography is going to be because you're going to have a bar light or something up so that you've got a nice bright light in front of you. So you want in the lowest ISO possible. That one's going to come more into play if you've got an Android because Apple don't let you control that. Don't know why, they just don't. So then depth of field. So actually the picture that you may or may not be able to see on your screen is kind of showing a shallow depth of field. So basically, if it's a shallow depth of field, you've got one point of focus that's quite close to the camera and everything else is in blurred behind it. If you've got a large depth of field, it's basically everything in your picture is in focus. It's as simple as that, really. You're looking at how much is in focus. So often with nails, you're trying to get a shallow depth of field because you only want the literal nails to be in focus. And that's kind of what you're aiming for most of the time, because you want everything else to be out of the way and not in your immediate, your eyes aren't immediately drawn to it. So aperture, I kind of covered that when I was talking about exposure. That's basically just how wide your lens is open. So it works on like a twisty shutter. You've probably seen it before, like on a kaleidoscope. The smaller the number, the bigger the opening. So if you're looking at a very small number, that's because your aperture is open really wide. And that basically just means that it's letting in as much light as possible. And if it's a tiny little hole, then it's letting in as least. So if your aperture is low, that's because it's bright outside, so you want less light being let in. But if it's dark outside, you're compensating by making the aperture bigger, basically. Your white balance, that one's something that comes up quite a lot when you're looking at nails, because it can adjust the tone of the photograph. So quite often, if you've taken a picture and you think, well, that doesn't look like the colours that I'm staring at in person, it's often because your white balance is off. In iPhones, you can often see the temperature gauge. You can turn that up and down, and that can kind of give you the more accurate representation of what you're actually looking at in person to what you've actually photographed. Because often when you're shooting with a really bright light, some of the bar lights and the like the lights you've got to work with, brilliant for working in, give you daylight conditions. But when you take a picture, you're looking at this bright, like off-hue picture that doesn't represent the colours that you've got. So to combat that, you're often changing with the temperature gauge. Shutter speed, this one pretty much is what it says. It's how quickly your lens is opening and shutting. So often that's going to be to determine, like, if you're photographing something that's moving past you, you want it to be really quick so that you can grab it really quickly. But generally, it's more about if you're holding still, so you can't go too long of a shutter speed, because if you stand, nobody can stand still for a second. Even if you think you can't hold it still for more than a second. And that's when you're going to get the shake, which is going to create blurring. So to get the most crispy pictures, you want a really short shutter speed, or as short as you can manage for your light setting. But all of these kind of work in harmony with each other, so you kind of have to trade off with each one. And then exposure value, I've added that one in because I know that that's what the Android phones always comes up with at the bottom. I don't really know why they call it that, but it's kind of just exposure basically, but it kind of combines the aperture and exposure in one. I don't know why it does that, but it basically represents how much light's in the scene and what settings are going to give you the right exposure. So that's kind of just a few little terms that I might be throwing about to kind of give you a bit more of an understanding of why the photos might look the way they do. So that was a lot all in one. I'm giving you a lot of it. You're all going to be ready to take the degree at the end of this. So most people, I've done this for Apple and Android because I think that's generally the settings that people are looking to use. So I'm going to go through iPhone first. So basically, the main things you're looking for iPhone, if you set your phone to Pro RAW mode, so if you turn on Pro RAW, it basically means that your camera has then got access to capturing as much information as possible. So it can take on as much as you can see with your eye. And then it also means that when I'm talking about adjusting the white balance and stuff afterwards to try and get your photos to look like they do in person, so that when you're trying to post a picture that's got a certain color on it, you want people to be able to see it and not come and say, oh, this is the color I'd like, and you show them it in person, they're like, well, that's not the same color. You want to be able to take the pictures and then they'll be like, this is the color I want, and then when you show them it, it's like, yeah, great, that's perfect, to kind of smooth out that a little bit. But yeah, so if you're shooting with the Pro RAW mode, it's going to let you edit so that you can see exactly what you're looking at, basically. So yeah, Pro RAW mode is what you need to turn on. I've kind of put little step by step of how to get to it. So feel free to screenshot this page because I know the settings. It's a bit annoying to try and get to. But once that's on, it'll bring up a screen that you can tap it on and off in the corner, a bit like where the live mode is in the corner of your screen, the corner of your camera. Because that's the only thing, is it is a bigger file. So definitely when you finish taking all your pictures and you decide on your final one, make sure that you've my train of thought's just gone. Yeah. Oh yeah, make sure that you delete it to just have maybe one or two of those photos, because they are going to be bigger files, but it means you've got more control over them. So it swings and roundabouts. But if you're anything like me, I'm terrible. And I will keep about 100 pictures from every single set of nails I've done. And then I'm like, well, I didn't need all of them, and I used the one that I've only used. But yeah, so that's what I'd probably recommend with iPhone. And it also is going to let you control the exposure. So quite often I've seen a lot of people having the problem with Instagram at the moment where it's over brightening your photos. So one thing I'd maybe recommend is to drop your exposure by a few, maybe even like 0.3 or up to 0.7, so that it looks a little bit darker, so that when you pop into Instagram and it over brightens, it's actually going to compensate for that over brightening, so that it kind of stops that happening. But it should just bring it up as a slider at the bottom. So yeah, that's kind of your settings for iPhone. You mainly, it just needs a bit more information, and that'll often make you able to get more, sort of the most out of your photos. So with Android, so you're looking for the Pro mode. So when you click the settings on the camera, you should be able to click Pro mode. This is very similar to Pro Raw in Apple, except Android for some reason like to give you more control. So you can control your ISO, which is what I was talking about earlier. So that you're kind of looking for as low as you can get. So ISO, ideally 100 to 250 is where you want to sit with your ISO. And then your shutter speed, you kind of want to be, your shutter speed is the next one. That's sort of your maximum you kind of wanting to go is 1/200th of a second, which is what that is, 1/250. That's what that means, or 1/100. And that should be able to do that. And then the center focus should get you there. And then if you auto white balance it, that should pick up the right photos. But then that'll kind of react to the scene that's in front of you, because sometimes you've got different colors going on. But it's like I say, it's very similar for both. You're wanting your phone to be able to record as much information as possible, because that way, when you see the pictures, you're going to get a crispy photo. You're going to get like exactly what you're looking for, basically. Yeah, so another thing, so the two main things that you're basically controlling are how you're photographing, which is basically your setting, and then what kind of lighting. So I've given 3 different kind of duos of photos there that are all in different settings. So you've got natural light at the top. We've got a long light, I mean like a bar straight of light, basically, or a round light bulb. So natural lighting, officially natural lighting is the best all round, but as you all know, if you live anywhere in the UK, it's very, very challenging to find decent natural lighting, especially in winter. You get up and you think, oh, when you start the appointment, you're thinking, great, it's light outside, I might take this picture outside, and then you finish the appointment, it's raining. So it's very much hit and miss. But natural lighting officially, because it's got the most surface area of light coming from it, so light travels in straight lines, so you're pretty much controlling it. So if you put something in the way, it's going to immediately cause a shadow, and nothing's ever going to go through light, but you can bounce it in a way. But all you've got to remember is it's always going in straight lines. So you want to be making sure you're not causing a shadow, your phone's not causing a shadow, but it will give you the most even coverage of light because it's the biggest spread. Then you've got your bar/long light. I don't really know what else I was going to call it, but yeah, I hope everyone knows what I'm talking about. But that's going to kind of create, like I say about light traveling in straight lines, that's going to kind of create these straight lines of light. So if you've got a particularly arty design, sometimes that kind of gives that line straight across, which is a little bit, it can distort your work. So although it's really, really good to work in often because it's giving that big sort of open space of light, it can look really flattering on like a plain design, but it doesn't always look the most flattering on arty design. So you kind of don't want to ruin it. So the round bulb is probably the one that's the most like flattering, because it's going to mimic the natural daylight the most, because it's giving such a curve, because it's coming out at a curve, it's going to give the rays of light all around, which, because your nail bed is curved, it's going to give that curve all the way around and just give more of a central effect of light. So often when you've got art and stuff, you can kind of control it that little bit more, and create more of a smooth look, and it can kind of make it look a bit more glossy, but it's mostly personal preference. It's more about how you're holding it near the light and how you're positioning your hands. So a lot of people have kind of their own style and they stick to it. I kind of try and do a bit of everything to switch it up a little bit. But yeah, it's you want to be as close to the light as you possibly can. Obviously in natural light that's different, but you're looking for a really golden or strong natural light to get the best coverage, but you want to be really close. So even if you think you're going to be too close to the light, that's kind of probably where you want to be to get the most brightness out of it, because then it gives your phone the most fighting chance to get as much light into the camera as possible, because a lot of photography is just about getting the lighting right. And once you've got the lighting right, you're often looking at something perfect. I mean, I know all of your sets of nails are going to be perfect, so it's mostly about controlling the light and getting your phone in the right angle and the right settings so that it's kind of recording it how you want it to, because it can be super frustrating when you've just done the perfect set of nails and you're looking at the pictures and you're like, oh wonderful, they look rubbish. So yeah, so this is a little example of how positioning it with natural light can work. So I'm going to do a little demo at the end of how I would position for artificial light, because I can kind of show it as a little demo. But this is obviously natural light is not going to be on our side at 8 o'clock on a Monday night. So basically with natural light, you're looking at, so you're not standing in the way. So obviously you can see on the right hand side, I'm clearly standing in front of the sun, which is it's throwing off the white balance. You're getting overexposures because your shadows are really strange. So when you can sink your shadows in to make them darker, it obviously makes your nails stand out more. So it's a lot of getting that right balance. So clearly on the left, I've moved out the way, and that's created the shadow deepened behind. So it's kind of blurred out that background for you. So obviously we're always looking for a bit more of a shallow depth of field so that you just, like I say, get in the focus on the nails. But you can kind of give that effect as well with shadows if you wanted everything to be in focus, but deepen the background so that you're almost creating like a vignette, which is just where you're getting the darker outside, so that you can kind of draw that focus straight onto the nails. And I mean, this is another example of a different style of photography. I mean, I do, like I say, I often will move hands about to where I think for the person, because sometimes some people's hands don't work with the kind of claw shape. Mine looks quite strange when I do it a different way. And often pulling in like a sleeve, that often can kind of remove the kind of palm out of the way. And that can kind of distract your eye to just so that you just see the nails. So it's kind of a lot of trial and error will be sort of playing with things, but while controlling the two main things and then adding your trial and error with your little added in things, basically. So yeah, here is just, I've thrown in a few of the different kind of things I've done. So most of these all of these are with round light. So you can see how it kind of gives that glossy effect. So I've got a few there of like I'm holding people's hand, because often if you want to be super close up, then a nice black glove can create that background that's just kind of blurring it all away. And then you're getting the close up of the nails. Again, if you're sort of holding somebody's hand kind of more folded, I guess, then you can get a really close up on the detail. You can see that in the top. But like I say, it's more working on getting like you want to be super close to the closer than you think you probably need to be. Like most of my clients are used to it now, but I am often on top of like when my phone is on like so close, because the closer you are, the more detail you're going to get in, because your phone's not having to like sort of challenge to record all of this extra detail that it doesn't need. It's only recorded this small amount of detail that you can see close up. So it kind of gives less information for your phone to take in, and then therefore you can get in that crispier picture with the nails, which is what you're obviously selling. This is your product, so you're wanting it to be as top notch as you want. I mean, the round light I have been using is the IKEA one, but you can literally use any. You just want a nice bright bulb, because that'll give you the best round effect. And the same goes with your bar lights. You want something bright, as bright as you can basically get, because the more light in your phone's camera is taking in, the more options you've got for sort of changing the way it looks in your phone. And obviously we want to take perfect photos so that there's no time for editing. You can just upload it straight away. But often it's just tweaking it so that you can have it exactly perfect. So Scratch Magazine. So this is something I entered last year. So this is kind of a little bit away from the phone photography, but I just wanted to talk about it since it's something that you're all capable of. But yeah, so I entered the Scratch Magazine photo competition last year. I didn't win, disclaimer, I didn't win. But this was, it kind of aligned both of my interests. So I found that a lot of being in the nail industry has kind of allowed me to be able to open some different doors for my photography. So yeah, this shoot was for the I can't remember what it exactly was called, but the photo competition that's in Scratch Mag. And basically we just had to do a set of nails and then create a shoot. And would you believe this is shot on my conservatory floor? But this is what I mean about creating things that are not real. And I think when you've created such a beautiful set of nails, you're wanting it to be shown off as much as possible. So like I've kind of gone with that bronze vibe because I'd done a goldy bronze set of nails, and I wanted to really highlight that and sing through the golden theme all the way through. But yeah, so I did the set of nails for this, and this is my friend who I forced to model for me. And I basically had her laid on the floor on top of this gold sheet, and then I put fake leaves. And then for the one that's the big one was the one I entered in the middle, and we went with the shallow depth of field because those fake leaves, if you'd have seen them in person, you did not believe me because they were so fake. It was it was fabric and they were awful. But you can distort stuff so easy by just softening that focus and just kind of just adding that little bit of blur so that you're singing the focus directly in the middle of the photo, and you kind of immediately drawn straight to her eyes. And then we kind of tactically put her nails there so that you kind of drawn away through the gold of the chrome. So yeah, I kind of took the inspiration from like the gold and the autumn, because I wanted to sort of sing that through, because I knew I wanted gold nails and I felt that represented it as best as possible. But yeah, so this is something that I mean I did all by myself, I guess, besides my friend modeling. But you absolutely can club together and kind of work on nails together or work on the photography together, and it's just something to get doing that's still in nails, and you're still doing something that you love, but also challenging yourself to do something. Because once you kind of get in the hang of nailing the photography in the first place, I think it's quite nice to be able to challenge yourself to do stuff different. But I just wanted to talk about that a little bit because it was something that I was involved in last year, and I'll probably be involved in when they release it again this year. So I'll be trying to think up some new style. But yeah, it's all about controlling your lighting. And I think that I keep saying it because it is the main thing with photography. It's about controlling what you can. So yeah, top tips. So keep a clear backdrop. So that is either You're going to have a clear backdrop because you've got some deep shadows, and it's going to kind of lose everything in the blur of the darkness of your contrast. So you're going to lose it in that way. Or if you have a white backdrop, some people have got white tables. I know a lot of you have the white silicone hona mats. You can pull that up and get your client to hold it in one hand and you've got it in the other, because I did that a couple of times. You can use what you have, like, even if it's a piece of A3 paper that's white, anything, or white wall that you've got next to you. I mean, I'm going to show you in a minute the setup that I've got going on at the minute. I'm lucky enough to have a little space next to me. But to be fair, it is a little space, and you'll see when I sort of give you the little demo at the end that it's kind of a little, like, sort of, I'm going to call it a scoop, but that's what we used to call it in the studio. It's basically a piece of paper that's hanging on a curve. And yeah, basically you want a clear background so that there's no potential distractions, and your potential clients, when they're scrolling through, are thinking, oh, they look amazing, because you're drawn straight to where you want them to be. You're not thinking, oh, what's that in the background? Or, oh, what car she got, because I can see a car keys. Like, you want immediate drawn to the nails and be thinking, wow, they're amazing. So less distractions, the better. Get close. Well, I've talked about this one probably too much already, but you want to be right up to the nail. So I'll just, you want to be sort of like this close, like that's not too close. You wanting to capture as much as possible with as least backdrop as possible. And again, I'm going to show you when I do the little demo at the end. And yeah, like I say, you want less for your camera to have to take on. Just give it the nails that you want photographing and nothing much else. I've put find your style on there, but that's not necessarily something true, but often it kind of gets your Instagram flowing a little bit better. So some people hold their client's hand, and often when you're starting out, if you get comfortable just holding client's hand in yours, sort of nice every single time, then you know that that's how you're going to do it, and you can kind of master that before you start messing around with all the different styles. Like I say, most of the time my clients are sort of folding their hands a bit like this, just because I find it easier to get closer to them. And initially, yeah, all of those three, besides the ones that you can clearly see the light in, a shot with my bar light, because I've only recently changed to a round light, and it was a game changer, firstly. But yeah, so I would mainly just say find a style, because it's easier to kind of get yourself into when you're just sort of picking up the skills of making sure you're getting the photography going, if that makes sense. But definitely experiment to find what's you find the easiest, because obviously you don't want to spend like 20 minutes per client taking a photo. That's not realistic. You've got maybe 5 or 10 minutes at the end of an appointment to get that quick picture. So you want something that you know you're going to be able to shoot and do quickly, so that you can move on to your next client, because if that's what it's all about, making sure you're moving on through, basically. And yeah, and lighting, and I will keep talking about it, but you want something bright. Yeah, check for where your light's reflecting on your nails. Is it getting a glossy sheen? Do they just look glossy? Are you getting a shine of light? Is it in the right place? Can you move the hand a little bit? Can you move the light a little bit? Can you sort of manipulate the light around the hand? Once you've got the hand in a good position, can you go closer? Can you go further away? What does that do to the light? Is it better if you're a little bit over the top of the nails? So if you kind of take the camera a little bit more over the top, is it better if you pull back slightly? Just always looking and registering, oh yeah, that's going to work for me, so maybe that's how I'll do it in the future. And just getting into that rhythm of kind of, this is how I'm going to take it, and this is how that it's going to look the most flattering. I want to say the next slide is the question slide. So yeah, it is. Oh, I've just clicked on it now. I don't know how to go back. But anyway, Larry, shall I do questions and then the demo, or demo and then questions? Demo first.
Got quite a few questions in the chat. Bear with me a second. I'm just going to go through them, and then we can go to the demo and go do more questions.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I can't see the chat because I'm sharing my screen. It doesn't let me open both.
Right, let me just scroll up a little bit. I know some people are saying different things about different iPhones not having that particular setting.
Right.
Beginning,
Mhm.
iPhone 13 and 14 do, but if you've got anything before that, you might not have that particular setting. So that's one thing.
Right.
And then
Yeah, see, I'm working on mine. I just assumed all of them have the same, but it's cheeky of Apple to kill that on some of them.
I've just figured about 4K videos and they're absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
Just figured that out like last week. Abby has said that my iPhone 13 Pro jumps cameras and I can't find any way to stop it. Does anyone else have this issue?
So you should do you have oh that's when I turn it around it you lose the little flower, but there should be a little flower that you can kind of turn on and off, and that should just keep you on one camera rather than jumping from one and two, because it's mostly about how close you get in. So if you're not quite close enough, it's going to try with the two cameras that it's on the line in. So if you get a little bit closer than you think you need to, it might just go with the zoomed camera, so therefore it's just using that one. And if you're kind of on that line, it's going to make it jump, if that makes sense. So maybe try going a little bit closer than you think you need to, or pulling back in the same sense, because that will stop it from jumping. But there's also a little flower that you should be able to turn off, and that should stop either. No, turn on even. The flower should be on, not off, because the flower is the close-up one. Yeah, that's right. And that should be able to, so that it knows that it's trying to use the closest camera. Hopefully that makes sense.
Perfect. And Olivia's asked that I noticed when I get close, I get a grainy photo. Like the close-up lens on my phone isn't very clear. Does anyone else find that?
What is this iPhone?
Yeah. Sorry, Olivia. I'm guessing it's iPhone. Give me a second. Yeah, 13 Pro Max.
Yeah. Oh, I'm going to contradict myself though. I guess it sounds, yeah. I mean, I'm working with my 14, so yeah, I guess maybe make sure that, like I say, the flower is on, and hopefully just try and keep as still as you possibly can. I mean, maybe if you could get maybe like a phone arm to hold your phone in to kind of stop that extra shake, that might kind of stop a little bit of the blurring, maybe. That might, or even planting like your elbow on the table so that you've got less sort of camera shake. That might correct it a little bit. I would probably give that one a go, because you, like I was saying about the shutter speed, if your shutter's trying to overcompensate and stay open for longer, it's going to make it that little bit more blurry. But if you can plant like your elbow and kind of plant yourself down a little bit more, it might sort of stop that shake. And then when you're taking your photos, if you tap the screen to sort of auto your focus, it brings up a little yellow box with a little sun. If you tap that, you can also press and hold it on your subject if your subject's not moving. And it brings up AF lock, which is just autofocus lock. So that'll stop your camera trying to keep consistently focusing, because that's one thing iPhones do automatically. They're just always trying to focus on the closest objects or where you're asking it to focus. So if you lock the focus, it'll stop that kind of jumping in and out of one another. So maybe give that one a go.
Got a nice question here from Hannah. She said, would you recommend a ring light with a phone attachment or just stick with an external round bulb light?
I'd probably say stick with a round bulb. I mean, your round ring light is going to give that kind of round effect the same way a bulb was, but I feel like you can manipulate the bulb light a little bit more. That's what I'm going to show you in the demo with the bulb light. So hopefully that'll give you a little bit more of an insight of how to use the bulb light a little bit better if that's something you're struggling with, because it's often you're maybe not putting it as close to the light, or not holding your camera as close to the nails or close to the light, if that makes sense. But I would say probably stick with the round bulb, because I think overall it gives the most flattering effect on the nails. And generally, a round bulb is probably your cheapest option. I think sometimes they market these big fancy ring lights, and actually they give the big circle, and you don't, that's ruining the design that you've worked really hard on. So yeah, I would say stick with the round bulb, is my personal opinion.
Perfect. We've also got some. Oh, Lawrence asked, "Where is the flower setting?" Now I'm trying to find it on my phone now, so I can show you as well. Do I have it on mine? I should.
What have you? It usually comes straight up when you open. Hang on, when you open the camera. This is, you're going to see my face, but if you can see the look, I don't know if you can see this, but it comes up in that corner. You want it to stay yellow because when you tap it, it turns grey. Does that come up on yours?
On mine.
It doesn't come up on mine.
Oh,
I've got an 11 Pro. I don't know if that's the reason, if it's because it's an older one.
possibly.
I've just put it in the chat. I've just had a Google, and you have to change a setting on the camera mode on your settings. I've literally just done it after I've heard there is like a mode that I can change. Let me try and find it quickly. I think it's the macro control.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, if you go into your camera settings, it will have a little toggle, show camera control for automatically switching. And if you press that, it then comes up with the flower.
Ooh.
Sorry, I hope that helps. I couldn't find it myself. I had to do a proper Google.
Is that in
No.
preserve settings, was it?
It was
Preserve
just
setting.
in camera. So if you go like onto your settings and then scroll down,
Yeah.
go into camera. If you scroll down to the bottom,
Yeah.
it will say macro control, and then it's just like a toggle there. It's
I haven't got
below
it.
like lens fast of shooting. What phone do you have?
I've got an 11, iPhone 11.
I
got
think
an
that
iPhone
came out
13.
when it was the iPhone 13 Pros. So it's not going to be on all phones. I've got
Right.
14 Plus and it's not on there. But with regards to the macro, I know exactly what you lot are talking about, even though I don't have the phone. I think it came out starting from the 13 Pros, because I've even got a 12 Pro and I don't have it.
Yeah, I've got an 11 Pro. That's probably it.
I've got
Okay.
a basic 14 and it's not on there either.
Right.
Right. I just assumed iPhone was all going to be the same. I didn't think to look into it. I just assumed.
I put on the question earlier about what to do when it was switching, and the only thing I found to do was to like press and focus on the photo, and then like pull the brightness down, like tap and then pull down, and then it seemed to actually focus on the nail and make the background a bit darker, so it stopped it switching. I don't know if that helps anyone.
That one is called the AEF lock. Everyone can do that on their phones.
Yeah, that's your autofocus lock that I did meant. That's gonna
found that will combat that like camera switching.
Yeah, that's what I was saying about it trying to keep focusing all the time. It's going to try and switch the one that it thinks is the best to get the most clear shot. So yeah, I guess that's probably your main option, is to lock your autofocus so that it's not going to keep trying to focus all the time. So that literally, when you're holding it in front of something, you're pressing, as you tap to focus normally, when your little yellow box comes up, then you just tap and hold it and it should click to come AF lock.
Honestly, I was ready to switch phones because I was actually using my mum's like slightly older phone because I was getting so annoyed at it switching. So I'm glad I somehow figured it out.
Yeah, hopefully that helps. I'm sorry that I thought it was I just assume Apple's all the same because I assume it's the same across the board, but I forget they're a bit useless.
They just want you to buy a new phone.
Yeah.
It's wild because like I said, I've got a 12 Pro Max and I've got a 14 Plus. The best camera is the 12 Pro Max. The ones that are starting to come out after I would say after 13, they've got worse. The camera have got worse. I will never get another Apple one again.
Oh, really? Oh, I've got the 14 Pro and I find mine fine.
Maybe it might be the pros then, because this is the first time I've ever got a plus.
Right.
Before that, everything was, well, the last one I had, like I said, was that I still do have and I do all my pictures on, is a 12 Pro Max, and that one, it still works amazing. So I don't know, maybe it's because of I've got the plus, because I've only got 2 cameras on this. Do you get what I mean? Whereas the other one I had the 3 at the back.
Yeah, so obviously with your 3, you get in your macro lens, which is what you get in that kind of closer up stuff. So possibly.
Yeah, I think it's the plus. I think the pluses and the normal iPhones aren't worth it, but I think maybe the pros are in terms of cameras.
Yeah, I would probably agree with that. Yeah. Yeah.
I've got a clip-on macro lens. Would you recommend that?
Yeah, that'll give you that kind of close-up effect, because that'll basically, a macro lens is going to give you a shallow depth of field, so it's going to bring you closer and lose the background, basically.
Okay, thank
so
you.
I would definitely give that a go.
Thank you very much.
No problem. Was there any other questions, Larry, or shall I go into the little demo?
We have Lucy's made a nice point saying, I have the Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra. Always
Yeah.
some name for a phone, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Switch from an iPhone 13 Pro Max and the camera is crispy. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's actually really underrated for their cameras personally.
Yeah.
Take better photos than me. She's got a Samsung. They're amazing.
Yeah, well, when I was looking at the camera settings on the Samsung, that's the little screenshots I popped on that slide, and they have way more control over a camera. It's way more, so it looks way more like a DSLR. Apple's just trying to do it all for you, and I think that's where it's falling down, because sometimes it's like, why I would like to be able to control that, because you're going to get more results if I can see it, not you. So that I would, yeah, definitely some of the Samsungs give you way more control. That is for sure.
I do actually know there's someone I spoke to at N&M last year. So they actually have 2 phones. One's simply just to take photos with, and the other one is their like work phone, because it's just incredible. Not telling everyone to buy 2 phones, but could be a good option.
Yeah, no, that's not really realistic, but you never know. If you trade up and keep one for a photo.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like buying a camera, isn't it? Just buy.
Yeah.
Rosa that's asked for tips for mobile nail techs on lighting, please.
Is that kind of, i.e., you haven't got a light that you set up while you're mobile, or is that like kind of using the light that's available light? Is that what you mean there?
Like maybe travel size lighting, things like that.
Yeah, I guess so. Find as bright room as possible and as white. I mean, sometimes, quite often, if you go into a bathroom to take pictures, I know that's not always ideal, but sometimes that can be a good room for lighting, because often you're going to get white tiles, or you're going to get a brighter light. Often when you go in the bathroom in the middle of the night, that's the room that's the brightest. Other than that, find a window. If you haven't got if you're not going to bring a table light with you, get as close to a window as possible, or even outside if it's not too rainy. But I would say for a mobile tech, it's making use of natural light as much as you can. Again, getting close up. And yeah, I mean, the picture that's on the bottom of the screen at the moment, that is in natural light. The bottom left of the screen is in natural light. So I guess it's just using as much available light as you possibly can. So get close to a big window. Christ, even stand next to an open door, just do it on your way out. And yeah, try and keep a plain background and or blur / high contrast your background. That would probably be the best tips. And if you've got a light, use that on if you can get like a silicone mat or a piece of paper or something to clear your background out, because often when you're mobile, it's not kind of as easy to kind of just set up a big photography setup. That's not realistic. So as clean a background as possible and as bright a space as you possibly can are probably my two biggest tips for mobiles.
But Rosa also said, yeah, I have a light, yes, but wondering if I would be better with a round light. I know there was a similar question to that earlier that you asked.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to sing praise. I've had both. I mean, what's currently providing light on me is a bar light, but that's better for something that's not glossy, because when you suddenly put glossiness to it, it's not going to have as even coverage, and therefore you're often better, so you're not getting the harsh lines of light, to go for something rounder. But it's mostly personal preference. If you like those harsh lines, keep them and stick with your bar light. But if you prefer something that's going to give a more even finish, go with a round one.
Kat has also asked, are there any adjustments you recommend to do after you've taken a photo, such as adjusting lighting, brightness or sharpness, etc., to help focus on the nails?
So the first one I always adjust, it pretty much every single photo, is your temperature. So that's going to be controlling your white balance. So you want to look at your picture, and either if you're looking at it and you're thinking this is looking a little bit blue, adjust your temperature up, because that's going to add in your red tones, which is going to combat your blueness. If you're looking at it and thinking this is looking quite red or warm or pink, take it down a little bit. Also react to skin tones. If you've got somebody with a more darker skin, you want to go a little bit on the coolest, take a little bit down. Opposite, add sort of to kind of to make it look the most natural. Exposure you can play with, so that will help you brighten and darken an image. So if you've taken a picture in a lower lighting setting, you can push your exposure. Don't go too heavy on it. All of them, you don't want to go masses, because the more edits you do to a photo, the less real it looks. And obviously we want to make it look like that's how you shot it in the first place. But just teeter it up on the exposure a little bit if you've taken it and actually it looks a bit dark. I said about combating Instagram. If you're going to be putting it on Instagram and you're finding it's boosting it by 100, it's obviously not, but if it's really over brightening it, just drop it down by a little bit. What else? The other one is contrast. I would always up your contrast a little bit, because that'll sink your shadows in and make them that bit darker, and sing the praises to the nails, basically, because it'll sing your highlights. But they're your main three. I'd say your temperature, which is your white balance, your exposure, which is how light or dark your image is, and your contrast, which is just going to enhance your shadows and enhance the brightness and really focus you in on those nails. I'd say those three, because you don't want to overplay with it. We haven't got all the time in the world to keep editing nails. So I would say them three if needed, but respond to the picture. So if you've got a picture that's particularly bright and you want to play with it, respond to what you're looking at more than anything. But those are the three I would say focus on.
Cool. And I have one last question before we go on to the demo. I do appreciate it's coming up to 9 o'clock. Abby, no question is a silly question to start with. But what Abby's asked is, this might be a silly question, but using oils after always makes the nails look a bit cloudy. Is how you remove that before photos, as you still need to add the oils before photos, but how to remove that before photos, even about how to remove the blurriness.
So as in the little oil droplets that you get on photos, the kind of, I tell you what I've found, the best way to remove that is not a lint-free wipe, is to have a microfiber cloth on hand. Literally the ones you can get cheap from Home Bargains. They're not expensive. You probably got them in your kitchen. Not that I'm saying bring a dirty one from the kitchen, obviously, but I mean a clean one. But they're super cheap, but a microfiber cloth is going to buff away on the nail plate, but keep your skin hydrated. Always have one on hand and just to buff away, and that'll give you that glossy shine with keeping the skin hydrated. There you go. That's my tip of the day.
Perfect. She's like, I'll grab some. I can't remove it with a lint wipe, it just moves around.
It does, absolutely does. You're just smudging it all over, and then you're like, well, I've just made it worse. So it's not helpful.
Perfect. Okay. Oh, sorry. One question from Lauren.
That's okay.
Be made before or after the photo is taken, or is it better to do it in shot?
Wait, Pat, sorry, I missed the first part of that question. Sorry.
Lauren's just asked, can these adjustments be made after the photo is taken, or is it better to do it in shot? Is that with the camera settings?
So some of the camera settings, so particularly Samsung's, you can control a lot more in camera so that you can do it, and if you preserve in your settings, it will do it every time. So if you work at a salon desk or at a desk where light's going to be the same every time, preserve the settings. It's a setting in you. I can't tell you exactly how to get to it because off the top of my head, but you can definitely set them so that it keeps the same setting, and then it will stick to what's similar every time. So if you know you're going to be taking 4 sets of nails that day, and you'll have all the same pictures that way. So on Samsung, I know you can definitely control it, but the ones that I just mentioned about the contrast and exposure and a temperature is done afterwards. So yeah, that.
Perfect. Okay. What we'll do is we can go back to any questions at the end. Like I said, it's coming towards 9 o'clock. You all probably got busy week ahead. So shall we go over to do the demos?
Yes, right. Let me see if I stop the share. I'm hoping it's going
to get onto is going to get her phone connected up. Fierce just made a comment saying that I spray with Pure Clean, which hydrates everything back up and doesn't leave any oil, then oil after pictures. So top tip, if you've got Pure Clean to hand, it's really, really great. And what I've noticed as well, when Morgan, every time she does her nails, she always Pure Cleans after she does her nails before she oils. And you get the most dreamy droplets on the nails. If you're looking for a really aesthetic photo, you know, like when people use bubbles, like using like in bubble baths and things like that, you get really nice aesthetic photos. Pure Clean does that nice, clean, crisp water drops on the nails if you wanted to.
I love it. It makes my nails look juicy. Capital J.
I was waiting for your voice to pop up somewhere.
I know you love it.
amazing.
So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to spotlight Alison for everyone, because now you're on your phone. So we can
I am. Right, let me move. Okay. So, this is really unattractive, so I'm really sorry, guys. But, okay, so this is the setup that I've got. So, let me, this is my nail desk, but I've got a little bunch of shelves that I set up a little. This is a piece of like plastic PVC thing, like vinyl, attached to like a little clip thing, but you could quite easily make that with paper. Like it doesn't have to be. I've just got a bougie setup because I like to be different. So basically, if I clip my phone in here, then I should be able to show you what I'm doing at the same time. So you are basically going to be the eyes of the camera. So bear with. I hope you can all see this properly. If you can't, please give me a shout and I will just pop your microphone on and give me a shout. But basically, so, oh my God. If I was going to be taking this as a photograph, so I've got my IKEA light and I've just positioned it on top. So you can see the more you're moving it, the more you're going to be changing the lighting. So at the minute, we're getting a lot of shadows sort of on the hand and not across the nails. The second I move it in front, we're lighting the nails and you're getting that kind of nice sheen on top. So what I often do is to get more shadows when I'm taking pictures of my clients' hands is to turn off the main light and hopefully you can see that's made a difference. So that gives you the shadows kind of in this area. If you want into, this is my lovely practice hand. If you want to sort of take them this way, you want to get super close up so that you can see that shine right on top of the nails. You want to be really, really close, because the closer you are, the less things are in the background and the less things that are causing those kind of extra distractions. I'm going to show you with my hand doing it that way as well. So if you're wanting to photograph them this way around, then you kind of angling it so that you stagger in the fingers, and then you can move, as you can see, when I move the lights over this side, then if you're moving it to here, you can kind of respond to that design. So to get more shadows in, you're moving a little bit back. So I'm going to pull you back so you can kind of see where I am at the same time. So yeah, that's how I kind of have, and I'll have my client's hand kind of here. This has probably gone blurry now, but never mind. And when I say I want stuff close, I mean quite literally you want to be nearly in the light, like, because that's going to get you as much brightness as you possibly can. Like, you want to nearly be in it. So that's going to get, my sleeves, that's going to get you as much light as possible. And then you can kind of move around until you've got each light even on each nail. And then you can kind of bring your phone really close in, and take the kind of pictures like that. So you're looking for things kind of like that. And then do you see what I mean? If you move in, if I move the light up a little bit that way, then we're losing a lot of the background to shadows, but it's also kind of nothing much in the background. You can I've got a lovely fake sleeve that I got from, I can't remember, Amazon, I think. That always looks good to kind of distract from the palm. I always find the palm of the hand can kind of distract a little bit. So that can kind of move around. You can see the lines on my nails. I obviously want the dot and sheen of light to be not ruining those lights. You're kind of looking at things like that. But when I say get close, I mean you want to be like, sing the praises. You've just spent all that time doing nails, so you kind of want to be super close up, and you want to have your hand like nearly in the light, because you see, like here, I'm basically in the light. Whereas if I do it a little bit further away, let's put it over there, then it is still as bright, but you're getting more of a sort of harsh white background, if that makes sense. Oh, I can see the actual chat when I'm doing this. The fake hand is the Elena hand, to whoever asked that. And accessories in photos is definitely a personal preference thing. I find that sleeves often, for people who kind of, I have really short fingers, so when I kind of hold my, like, I can't fold properly, so it's easier for me to kind of go for a claw, and then you've got all like your kind of extra hand in the way. And I find that with a fake sleeve, it just drags your eye again up, because it's a white one, it kind of keeps your eyes on the nails. So yeah, I hope that's helpful. In kind of, I can show you it under. So this is the difference between a bar light, because you can see that you're getting really harsh strips of light across, and it often is distorting. But when I say when you're using like the bar lights and you want to get, like, when I'm saying get close, I mean you want your client's hand like at it nearly, because that's when you're going to get the best pictures, because that's when you're going to get the most amount of light. So yeah, I hope that's been helpful. I can only see my face now, so hopefully you all could see that, isn't it?
There we go. Oh.
Is it gonna let me put it back to my lap?
So a couple of questions from here. Oh, she's back on the laptop. Heard that. Okay. Chloe's asked, would you recommend fake sleeves / accessories for photos?
Yeah, so I think that's pretty much personal preference, but I find that often, because we're looking at the nails, it often kind of just takes away the distraction of something else, and you can kind of just focus on the nails, because it sort of takes it into, almost blurs it away a little bit. So I think fake sleeves are super helpful. Some people find rings a little bit sort of to add things, but I think, to be honest, if a sleeve is all you need, I don't think you need much else. Because some people have like furry backgrounds or marble backgrounds or leafy backgrounds or whatever to their taste, but I actually think less is more. We're singing the praises of your nails at the end of the day. So you want to sort of get close, get bright lighting, and yeah.
Do you have any other questions? Oh, that fake hand is amazing. Where's it from?
It's the Elena hand. Is that Kirsty Meakin, I think? Is that Kirsty Meakin? I believe.
There we go. We just got lots of people saying thank you. Ina said thank you so much. It was really helpful. And Ina has joined all the way from Germany, which is lovely.
No way.
She says everyone. And then we've got another comment here saying thank you so much. Just need to mess around with my phone now.
Absolutely. Well, feel free. If you guys want to follow me on Instagram and you want to message me, feel free. I will always be open to answering questions if you're struggling. I will never mind in the day to always drop me a message. My inbox is always open. So if you want to drop me a follow, feel free. I'm always open to help. Oh, I'll pop it in the chat. Let me pop my Instagram in the chat.
What I'll do as well anyway is I'm going to pop a little post up shortly with Alison's Instagram in there too, because I know once this goes down, it'll be down forever. So what I'll do is I'll pop it in a little post on the community, but also do a little post for Instagram stories as well. You can just screenshot or whatnot, and I'll tag Alison in there as well. But is there any other questions for Alison before we wrap it up?
I just want to say a massive thank you to everyone, by the way, because this was my first time talking about like photography, and although I'm super passionate about it, thank you for all listening to me ramble for an hour, because I really enjoyed it. So hopefully it's been able to share some of my knowledge with you guys, and hopefully it'll help you in the future.
No, absolutely, and thank you so much, because I do feel like, even I say this with every business mastery that we do, is that we learn something too, even though we're not predominantly nail techs in the industry. We take something from everything, and you know, and as Morgan is saying here, your passion radiates, and that is so true. The way that you can explore different options, and you've given people a new lease of life on taking content to the next level. So I think that's really going to benefit everyone here. So thank you everyone for joining. Do really appreciate everyone's love and support on this, and especially for Alison, because I think she just does such a great job of what she does, and I love how she can connect both two passions together and help. Well, over 100 of you that's joined, so we have so much.
Crazy.
Absolutely lovely. We've got lots of thank yous, lots of love coming through the chat, which is lovely. So yeah, with this, what we're going to do now in the next couple of days, we're going to do some editing, get this full mastery on YouTube, so you can go back to it and go back to the tips and tricks if you didn't get them down on your notepad. Again, Alison's there for support if you ever need her help on anything. But yeah, thank you so much, everyone. I've absolutely loved every second of it. It's been amazing, absolutely amazing.
Amazing. Well, thank you. Thank you for hosting.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop all this down now. But again, thank you, everyone. Everyone get a good night's sleep, and
yeah,
I'll speak to you very soon.
Perfect.
Thanks, everyone.
See you later.